Oh, I hope
Welcome,
so.
everybody, to another episode of Coach's Corner. I am Tara Ann, and I am here with the lovely Laura Rupsis, our former admin director. I'm so grateful to have her back to share what's been going on as she's been forging the path for us health coaches in an industry that's young and growing. We have a group coming, so those that are hopping on, please share in the chat where you're from and where you're joining us from, and we'll wait just a few uh, to let the group gather.
Yep. Give everybody a couple minutes.
Yeah.
Fantastic. It feels fun to be on these. I used to be the one doing these all the time, right? I did Coach's Corner for a long time. We did a lot of promotional webinars, so it's feels nice, you
Oh,
know.
welcome back.
Yeah,
Nostalgia.
thank you. I love that.
All right.
And we're recording this, right? So
Yes, it
people miss it. Yeah.
records on its own. No problem. It is stated. And anybody feel like putting in the chat where they're from? I'm Tara. I'm in Honolulu. We've got Sacramento.
Sacramento.
Sandra has started, she's starting the ACE on 9/9. So we've got new students on board,
Nice.
which is fantastic.
Mhm.
We got Fairport, New York. Welcome, Michael.
Welcome.
I know we've
I'm
got,
calling in all the way from St. Augustine, Florida.
wow. All right.
Yes. So we moved down here 5 years ago in August from the Chicago area and never looked back. We got in
Yeah.
Northern Virginia. Very nice. Very nice.
All right. We've got some people coming in. And as always, feel free to ask questions in the chat, as well as you can use the question box if you feel like staying anonymous. And
Mhm.
we'll use today as some time to engage with Laura around all that's happening with Simplex and the internship program. Natalie's here from Canada. Welcome.
Very nice.
All right. What's it been like, before we jump? Like I've known you as,
I
a
enrolled you.
right. Right.
Yeah. So for those that don't know me, that I did it, and I used to be the admissions director. I was the admissions director at Primal for 9 years. I was
Yeah.
Primal's first employee, Primal Health Coaches' first employee. Then we brought on Aaron Power, and then everybody else that sort of eventually joined. But when Mark and Aaron Fox, who's the CEO of Primal Health Coach Institute, when they decided to take what was once just the Primal blueprint expert certification, which was just like a content expert certification.
Mhm.
They kept getting a lot of questions like, well, now what do I do with this? I really want to do something with this. Do I need to go become a nutritionist, or do I need to a coach? And so they kind of took a look at the landscape about what other programs, like health coaching programs or other programs that might actually be aligned with Primal, that they could refer people to, and there was literally nothing out there. And then it's all right, well, kind of what would it take to launch our own health coaching certification? Oh, completely unregulated industry. Okay, I guess we can put together what we want. So then they brought in Christine Hassler, who was the first creator of a lot of the coaching content. Erin has since done a beautiful job of expanding all of that and taking that all to a whole other level and really aligning it with the board certification, so that when people took our course, not only did they qualify for it, but they were really well prepared for it. And she's done a beautiful job with it. But yeah, when they rolled it out, they needed somebody to ask questions, and they were looking for somebody who, I don't know, ideally lived kind of the Primal Blueprint lifestyle, somebody who was already a coach, somebody who might have had some kind of sales or relationship management experience. They were looking for like this unicorn. They had
Right.
this list of, and literally checked every box.
Checking
Yeah.
all the boxes.
So
Well,
when
I
I
acknowledge your
applied,
dedication.
Yeah, isn't that funny how all that
Mm,
kind of aligns and stuff? But and I was there for 9 years, and I didn't leave because I was unhappy in any way.
right.
There were other things I did want to do that I really felt Primal would benefit from, just in terms of growth, you know.
Okay.
Um, but that wasn't. I finally left when I met the CEO. So now might be a good time to just talk about
Yeah.
Simplex a little bit, right? So
Mm,
Simplex Health is a medical nutrition therapy company legally based in the Philadelphia area that started
mhm,
out brick and mortar in the Philadelphia area until COVID. Okay, but that this company started due to one man. His name is David Rambo. He's our CEO. David Rambo owned a business that was really in the fitness industry. His company, they would essentially establish and run on-site fitness centers for corporations or multi-tenant office buildings. It was like a corporate wellness, but predominantly a fitness-based business. They did some health coaching here and there, but they really didn't get deep dive into nutrition or anything. And David, so imagine this guy. He's a busy professional and he's in his
right.
30s. Couple he has two young kids. And he was barreling towards type 2 diabetes.
Oh, no.
Okay, barreling towards type 2 diabetes. No matter what he did, no matter how much he worked out, no matter how little he ate, you guys know the story, man, right? He just
Mm,
his blood sugar, because this is how doctors diagnose diabetes, is by glucose, right?
mhm,
This where you are in terms of fasting glucose in your A1C. And he just kept getting worse and worse no matter what he did. He was on medications. He was seeing an endocrinologist. And eventually it got to the point where his doctor's like, you're going to have to start taking exogenous insulin
oh,
because
wow.
the medications weren't working and David's efforts weren't working. David is a very spiritual guy. He's a religious guy. You don't, if you don't hold his religious beliefs, does not matter. He's not a preachy guy by any means. But he said to me, he said, someone spoke to me, God spoke to me and said, get out of there. That's not the answer. So he walked out and he called this functional medicine doctor whom his son had been seeing. His son had eczema, and
Mm,
this functional medicine doctor is the only doctor that had been able to actually heal it through nutrition and some supplements. So he called that doctor and said, "Here's my situation. Can you help me?"
mhm,
And that doctor said yes.
mm,
And that doctor put him on what is essentially what Simplex calls a low insulin, high fiber diet. Okay? It's a whole food based diet, very and he read all the books. The first book he read was Dr. Lustig's book, Dr. Robert Lustig, who is actually now a contributing medical advisor to Simplex Health. He has been on the record saying Simplex Health is the business I would have started if I was a businessman. So Dr. Robert Lustig wrote Fat Chance. He wrote Metabolical. He wrote The Hacking of the American Mind, all those books. But he read Mark Sisson's book. He read Primal. He read
mm,
all of Rob
mm,
Wolf's books. I mean, all he read them all and completely changed his life around and was like, this is what we need to be telling people. And what he realized is most people do not have access to functional medicine,
yeah,
that most people get their health care through insurance funded avenues. So he wanted to find a way to make that work. So he founded Simplex Health. He brought on one dietitian because they
big.
needed a registered dietitian in order to be able to bill insurance. And that started 12 years ago with one dietitian. There's now 23 dietitians.
Nice.
Okay. And he actually founded a separate company. So Simplex Wellness, the fitness side, still exists and it's still
Okay.
growing. And Simplex Health is the medical nutrition therapy side. He brought on Dr. Avi Gerwitz, who went to the Institute of Functional Medicine, but he's a practicing MD in emergency medicine. He acts as also sort of our boots on the ground clinical advisor. And we have several directors around clinical protocols and RD training and development. We've got someone who actually spearheads all of our partnership agreements. The vast majority of Simplex patients come through physician referral.
Okay.
Okay. So if you're going to come here from an internship perspective, bear in mind that is the starting place of the patients you're working with. These are people whose doctors have told them that you have a condition or something's going on and that they felt that this patient would benefit from some sort of nutritional coaching or intervention.
Mhm,
Okay, so it's been 12 years now. We are now embedded with organizations like Penn Medicine, Jefferson Health and their hospital system, Millennium Group down here in Philly, Axia Women's Health, Redeemer out of Philadelphia. We would love to continue to grow in Florida because we do have David's down here. That's how I met David. Oh, totally skipped the essence of the story.
That's
David,
right.
during COVID, moved out of Philly because everything had to shut down. They had to figure
Right.
out how to take their brick and mortar business and take it virtual, which they pretty much did without a heartbeat. Simplex Wellness was a little bit harder, but they what they did is they took their gym and they put out they just built a series of videos and they did a lot of home workouts and stuff like that. But Simplex Health was a little easier to take virtual. Hello
Right.
Zoom, right? They did everything through Zoom. They found an online EHR. We use Healthy or Get Healthy. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that platform, but that's the one we use. And David moved down here, and that's how I met him. I had left Illinois, moved down to Florida, and I missed my gym. I used to own a CrossFit gym, and I was coaching there pretty much every day. Missed it. So I met David through the gym. I bumped into him. I was asking him questions about this T-shirt that he always wore, the Simplex Health T-shirts and fun stuff like that. I thought he was a doctor or something. Nope, not a doctor. And the next thing you know, he tells me about this company, and I asked him, "So, do you ever use health coaches?" And he said, "We do, actually." He said, "Mostly on Simplex Health. I'm sorry, for Simplex Wellness, the fitness business." He
Mhm.
said, "But the problem with Simplex Health is they have a hard time finding health coaches that actually understand the pathology of type 2 diabetes, like what causes it, and
Mm.
that have a reasonable nutrition knowledge." Okay, grounded in, yeah. So I'm like, well, I got thousands of those. Here's what I do. I work for this health coach school, and I have thousands of coaches that have graduated from this program that have exactly what look, they're coaches, they're not dietitians, but they've been trained in the kind of nutritional strategy that you're talking about. And
Right.
they all learn through just our baseline program what insulin resistance is and where diabetes comes from. He's like, "You're kidding." I'm like, "There's got to be some sort of synergy there." And then that's when we started kind of formulating the idea of the internship. What did I
That's where you
miss?
formulated the idea. I mean, can
Yeah,
you believe it? One, I wanna acknowledge the synchronicity of
I
the 2
know,
of you
right?
coming together, but then also, Laura, you just simply being yourself, talking to him about something on his shirt, and then that which comes from a simple conversation.
Oh my gosh. And that little story right there in a nugget for everybody listening, internship or not, is how everything happens. So if you're not out there talking to people, if you're
Yes.
not out there telling people that you're a health coach, or
Yes.
I'm going, maybe you haven't graduated yet, whatever, just embody it. I'm a
Yeah.
health coach, or I'm in this school. This is what lights me up. This is what
Mhm.
I'm learning now. Get out and talk about it because you never know the
Exactly.
contacts that you make.
Engage.
Yeah, along the way. Anyway, sorry if I'm screaming, but I
I
couldn't
think
be
it's great.
more passionate about that. Yeah. So we launched our first cohort. I wasn't at Simplex. I was at Primal. And the internship was in the hands of the people at Simplex, and they're wonderful people, but they're not coaches.
Right.
So the first cohort, they were all doing a bunch of different things. Some people were helping carry in partnerships. Some people were on like the clinical team. Somebody else was, so they were doing different things, but they weren't getting enough actual coaching experience because they really didn't have one person who was kind of in charge of it. They had
Okay.
the directors and they were kind of each taking, a piece of the puzzle. Um, and so the feedback we got from the coaches is that everybody's so nice. I really enjoy what I'm doing, but I'm not getting in front of enough patients. I'm not
Mhm.
getting
Yeah.
enough coaching. So when I came over, I ended up coming over because I was doing some just like contract work for David. They wanted to test out using CGMs in their
Right.
practice and they needed a coach to kind of help launch it. So he asked if was willing to do something part-time as just an independent contractor. So I said sure. And that's sort of how I started. And then I kept saying somebody needs to really take ownership. Like you need a director of health coaching is what you need. And he was like, "Well, how do you feel about taking that position?" So we talked about a few things. Look, Simplex is still a relatively small company. So and as you can imagine, just paint the picture. And this is the case with all clinical practices, by the way, that as you grow, your expenses grow with it. If
That's
you are getting the majority of your funding and revenue from insurance reimbursement, there's a cap, right? You have these negotiated rates. So the only way you make more, you can't charge more. Insurance companies won't pay for it. right? In our world, it's not like we can try to sell more. We could have, let's say somebody comes in and they're eligible for 6 visits, and those 6 visits are done. We can see if they want to pay out of pocket after that. Some people do, a lot of people don't, right? It's
Mhm.
it's really hard to grow just with bringing more people in, because when you bring in more people, you need more dietitians, right? Your
Right.
expenses go up with it. Um, so I had kind of made this offhand comment. What you need to do is you need to kind of maintain that business. That's what keeps the lights on. But if you really want to grow revenue, you got to get into a space where you have more pricing power.
Okay.
And this is where I felt corporate made a lot more sense, but different than what they're doing in fitness. And then eventually direct to consumer. Going direct to consumer. And he's like, "Who's going to do that?" I'm like, "Oh my gosh, lots of people.
Right.
I've had people just pay out of pocket to come see me as a health coach because they've been unsuccessful other ways, right? Other avenues. So I eventually, when I came over full time, I took over the internship. And I will say we've been through a few cohorts now, and it's changed a little bit each time,
Okay.
because what I'm trying to do is build an internship that works for everybody, but is scalable and replicatable. And then every time we change something, we're like, there's a chink there. We need to adjust things. So, it's changed a little bit each time. And
Yeah.
so, where we started with these rotations, where we had people that were learning partnerships and they were in the partnership rotation, and then they're in the clinical rotation, they're in the corporate rotation. We had all these rotations. It just got to be too hard to manage. And many of the interns, actually, they were helpful. They were grateful for the experience, but really at the end of the day, the reason they were there was to coach. So we restructured again. And I said, you know what? If there's an avenue that you want to learn about, then I will connect you with that director. If you want to learn how to like build referral relationships, I can connect you with Carrie. I'm sure she's more than happy to kind of show you the ropes and have you help her and her team, that kind of stuff. We've
Right.
had people that have experience with website development that have said, you know what, I think you could use this on your website, that wanted to take a crack at fixing that. We've had people raise their hand to write a blog post for us because they want to get some experience writing a blog post, like that kind of stuff. So the internship now, that kind of stuff is available to you if you want it, but it's not the crux of why you're here. Now it's just coaching. And so I approached Primal to
Mhm.
say, look, I really think back from when I was the admission director, one of the biggest questions I got from people enrolling in what's now the ACE course, it was called something else back then. But one of the biggest questions I got was, do you help me get my 50 coaching sessions? And we just don't. We don't kind of procure your 50 coaching sessions for you. I said, I think this can be the answer to that because I've got plenty of patients.
Right.
Right. And so that's how now we're at this point where we are targeting this internship and kind of making it exclusive to people that have taken the ACE program and want some experience. You don't have to be sitting for the national board, right? So if you're just here because you want experience, that's completely fine. But if you are going to sit for the national board, you can get your 50 coaching sessions here.
And so for those that are just learning what that is, there's a requirement when you're sitting for the national boards to get 50 coaching sessions in. And as
Correct.
Laura's sharing, sometimes people are like, where do I get those people from? And through the internship. So that's a really cool upgrade. And how does that work?
Right. So it's very low tech. Again, we're a small company. I wish I could say this was boom, there's a patient in my calendar. Great. No, actually, you're going to get quite a bit of experience going, oh, there's a lead. Here's somebody who said they wanted help. And they're going to end up on a list, and you're going to have to take that person off the list and give them a call, send them a chat, send them an email, and try to get them into your calendar. Okay. So this is going to be very similar to what, let's say you decide you want to go out for private practice. You get a lead from your website or an Instagram or however you're planning on finding your clients. Maybe you're deciding you're going to go out and do some seminars or partner with a local business or whatever the case may be. There's a fair amount of actual outreach when you find a qualified lead, right? Somebody that is a good candidate for what you do, you're going to have to reach out to them and try to bring them in. So this one, people access coaching through a couple of avenues. We have One that's mostly from our dietitians, where our dietitians are working with patients and they're saying, you know what, this person needs some extra help. So it could be, wow, this person's peppering me with a million questions. They need some additional help because I can't get to their questions fast enough. Okay. Or it's this person is really struggling with motivation, or this
Mhm.
person is really struggling with like recipe ideas, food ideas, or they're struggling with just the boredom of eating the same things all the time. They're struggling with a bad relationship with food, right? A negative relationship with food. I have these little, when a dietitian or a patient actually has access to this form, there's like a checklist that you can say, you know, and so what I try to do in that little list is make very coaching focused needs. Okay. I don't want it to be, am I allowed to eat dairy, like a bunch of food questions, because you're not their dietitian. And we'll talk about that in a minute. But it's if somebody wants to know what they can eat, we're going to kind of reframe that in a coaching perspective in terms of I'm looking for, I'm struggling with a need for variety. This comes up a lot, right? To which I might ask about a little bit more. Tell me about that, you know, and did you know that, you know, what's the pluses and the minuses of a lot of variety versus actually kind of eating the same things most of the time? I might take them through a little kind of pros cons list. And at the end of the day, we end up walking away with, you know what, eating the core set of the same foods is actually a lot easier. I know my budget. I don't have to think up a new grocery list all the time. You know, I always know what's there. I know what I like. I know what's good for me, and I can find my variety in other ways. You know, if I out to eat on the weekends or whatever, but what I eat day to day is pretty much the same, and that's it's reframing the mindset, right? So anyway, they might reach us because their dietitian suggested that some additional support would be
Oh, no, then
beneficial.
that really makes sense. And pardon me for the interruption, but
Yeah.
that really makes sense. I mean, the dietitian, she also has the next patient to meet, and each, that there people do need some more help. And so to have a coach to be able to slow down and really look at that beautiful need for variety and be like, actually,
Hmm.
let's have a conversation around that.
Yeah. And by the way, did you know I have 12 different ways to make eggs? Whatever the case may be, you know, if someone's like, I can't eat another egg, you know,
Yeah,
because they're eating the same eggs all the time, or they're eating nothing but hard boiled eggs or whatever the
yeah,
case may be. But so that's one avenue. And you're absolutely right. That's a good point. Our dietitians are often booked back to back. They get
yeah,
a little bit of downtime in their day, depending on um, th th they're often back to back, and it's difficult for them to get to the chats that people might be sending them, and they have to bill for their time. Okay, diet. This is how Simplex earns revenue. We are billing insurance to see a dietitian, and they have blocks of time that they're billing for. They can't run 15 to 30 minutes over. They can't do that.
yeah.
So that's one avenue. Another avenue is for patients who either don't have insurance or are out of network, or for example, we just don't, we only take one Medicaid plan, okay? Because Medicaid does not pay enough. We would lose money if we lose money on that appointment. And we've tried to figure out a way to still do it, and because we feel a sense of obligation to support those individuals that can't, you know, but we were bleeding money. So we don't take Medicaid anymore. But what we do instead is Simplex took the time to build this really beautiful 6 week nutrition education program that comes with nutritional video education as well as some handouts and things. And in
Mhm.
the past, they would just offer them this free 6 week course and then, you know, good luck. We hope you do well. And I
Mhm.
said, well, we have health coaches now. So why don't we support that program with health coaches? So anybody that is referred here that's on Medicaid or perhaps Medicare, I don't know if you guys knew this. Medicare will only cover medical nutrition therapy if you have type 2 diabetes or kidney disease. Those are the
Mm,
only two reasons. And
mm.
it's only 3 visits in the first year. After that, it's only two.
Wow.
I know. So we get a lot of Medicare people. So anyway, that's what Food IQ. It's called Food IQ. It is a complimentary uh, program that we offer, and we now support that with so you'll do a coaching visit every week with these people over their 6 week journey. So that's another avenue. Another avenue is through our type 2 diabetes program, which again, I am changing up. So this
Okay.
was Laura's brainchild. That's like, look, we have this goal, Simplex has this goal to improve our outcomes even more. Our outcomes are already industry leading. They're better than Virta's. They're better than anybody else out there that we would consider like a peer.
Okay.
And we want to be even better. We want to continue to improve our A1C reduction. We want to continue to improve the percentage of patients that actually enter remission. So I'm like, why don't we align this? Why don't we make a list of everybody that's referred here for type 2 diabetes and we'll offer them a coach
Hmm.
and let's see if we can move the needle. And that's great. So we've done that and we have this very long list of people that are referred here for diabetes, but it's like anything else. We're lucky to, even though my scheduling team will say, hey, you were referred here for type 2 diabetes. You're actually, because of your diagnosis, eligible for some extra support here, complimentary health coach for 6 visits. Are you interested? If they say no, they say no. If they say yes, my scheduling team checks a box. I
Hmm.
get a little ticket that says, hey, call this person about the type 2 diabetes program, and I add them to our list. As you can imagine, it's like trying to herd cats. So this person will land on the list. We may or may not reach them. So some of our coaches find maybe 30 to 40% of the people that they reach out to ever even get back to them.
Mm.
Okay. It's not really a problem per se, but in the beginning, I think it gets disheartening. And at the end of the day, it just feels like a lot of wasted time. It's really not. It's like 10 minutes a day to send a quick
Right.
chat or a quick chat text or
Yeah.
whatever. But what I've done, I'm changing up a little bit, which is um this type 2 diabetes, they say yes, we check a box, and when that box gets checked, we send out an automatic text message. And that text message says, "Hey, welcome. This is Simplex Health Coach team. We're excited you're here. Your dietitian's going to design your nutrition plan, and I'm here to help you put it into action, help you find motivation and accountability. Click here to book your appointment."
There we go.
Okay. We'll see how this goes. It just went
Okay.
live the other day. And then what'll happen is if they don't click that in 24 hours, then we get a little task to call them. But we as a team, I talked about this with the interns that are with me now, and someone made this suggestion, or actually I threw out, so now what we'll do is we'll get this 24-hour delay. But I've told them, please keep an eye on your calendar because what's going to happen is an appointment's going to pop in there.
Well,
They
there we
can't
go.
book more than 24 any earlier than 24 hours. You'll have a full day's notice and you'll get an email and all that stuff. But they decided they'd actually, if possible, to prefer two texts go out back to back. One, so it goes out 3 hours after they book an appointment with their dietitian. We don't send it immediately because we don't want it to get lost and all the other stuff they
Mm.
get when they first book. It goes out 3 hours later. And the suggestion was, let's send one more 24 hours later. And then if they don't click it, then we'll call them. So, and so this is their feedback, and this is what we're going to ask for, and we're going to kind of see how this works. And our hope is if we get essentially the same uptake, 30% of people actually click the link, then we're just going to go with that. We're just not going to add a task anymore. We're going to send two text messages, and if people click it, they click it, and we're getting the same sort of uptake.
Hmm.
So we have our type 2 diabetes list. But again, the purpose of this is so that we can see if people who were referred here for type 2 diabetes and are seeing a health coach, if they have better outcomes than those who are not seeing a health coach.
Hmm.
That's my whole like reason for doing this. And then we have a couple of other, we have payment plans that we offer to people that can't afford to just pay out of pocket as they go. So people will buy sessions in a bundle and then we divide it up over 12 months kind of thing. So they can buy 6 sessions over 12 months. But what we've done is added coaching to that to kind of stretch those dietitian visits out a little bit. So they'll have access to a health coach on those partner plans. So we have like 4 avenues. We've got plenty. I actually have a backlog. I've got like 40 or 50 type 2 diabetes patients that we're still trying to keep up with. So we have plenty of volume for sure.
So do you hear that, health coaches? Where do I find these people? And as I'm hearing you describe this, Laura, it's everything that I remember dreaming about what's possible with becoming a health coach. Like, oh, the future is that the doctors are going to say, go talk to the dietitian. The dietitian's going to say, you need health coaching. And it's, it may not be the same as somebody coming like really enthusiastic about it, and these people need help.
Right. You're 100% right. And I would love to hear what questions come to mind, guys, as I'm kind of going through this. I'm just sort of chatting at you, but I'd love to hear what questions you might have, whether it's about Simplex, how to apply for this, what the process looks like,
Mhm,
and all that stuff. So let me know. Some questions we got in the past on past webinars are, well, what happens if the dietitian gives advice I don't agree with? And I'm like, it's not your place.
mm,
You're the coach. You're not designing. So in this situation, we have a patient that belongs to a doctor somewhere, and this patient was entrusted in Simplex's care. And now we have another provider, a dietitian, who is clinically prescribing a nutritional protocol for this patient.
mhm,
Okay. So the coach, it is our job to help the patient achieve the goals set, or to break the goals that they were given into smaller goals, or to troubleshoot obstacles they're having in achieving the goals. It is not our job to tell a patient whether they should be eating. I'm trying to think of an example: intermittent fasting. Okay, this is a big one. And it's actually in one of our protocols. Intermittent fasting is a tool that we use, but we don't use it with everyone.
right,
Okay. Certainly not somebody brand new who
right,
has had zero success just eating better, let alone not eating at all.
right.
Right. Another instance is people that have a negative relationship with food. Be very careful around using intermittent fasting with people that are just looking for a reason to not eat, you know, eating disorders, things like that. And so we have had situations where patients ask the coach about intermittent fasting, and the coach is like, intermittent fasting is great. Here's a blah, 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 blah. The next thing you know, the patient goes back to their dietitian and says, well, my coach told me I should try intermittent fasting. And that is not at all what happened.
Oh,
Right. So at the end of the day, what I can tell you is the Simplex protocols are very much in line with what you learned at Primal, very much in line. However, we are very careful about meeting the patient where they're at.
yeah.
So, we have different protocols that we will put a patient on based on their starting place. So, a dietitian might start them slowly, and you might see them consuming things like chickpea noodles, right? That you're like, okay, this person's diabetic. Should they really be eating chickpea noodles? Okay, well, it's got some protein in it. It fills them up. Yeah, it's still carby, but it's a better option. We're going to wean them off this kind of stuff,
Mhm.
right? So we have to be very careful as health coaches. Even though we might know the answer to a question, we don't always know the context and the complexities and the nuance of the patient's situation. And we just have to be very careful. So it's
And
our goal to help. I see some questions pop in here.
well, right, right, right. And just to reiterate what you're saying, oftentimes as new health coaches, we want to shout from the mountaintops everything that we know and the value of that skill meeting people where they are. And
Mhm.
it may be different than how we would do it.
Right.
And I mean, that's just the biggest skill set is to meet
Yeah,
people.
look, anytime you work for somebody else, you have to follow their rules,
Yeah,
right? So for example, that intermittent fasting example, what might have been the right response? That's a great question. Why do you ask?
yeah.
Where did you hear about intermittent fasting? Where do you think this might fit into your protocol?
Tell me more.
This kind, like, dig and find out why. And then it can be, you know what? Intermittent fasting can be a powerful tool. Let me tell you what it is. You can give education. This is what intermittent fasting is,
Yeah,
right? This is why people use it for good and bad, right? Here are the benefits of it for people who are insulin resistant. However, I don't know enough about your clinical picture to know whether that's the right fit for you. You really have to be ready for intermittent fasting. And typically, we're going to recommend that you know how to eat before you learn how to fast.
yeah.
So this is really a question for your dietitian. So you can address the question, but don't give advice, right? You will, as over time as you're here, you'll learn the kind of stuff that's perfectly within your wheelhouse to answer in terms of if anything feels advicey. But really, at the end of the day, coaching is about facilitating change
Yeah.
right? And it's about digging into their why and their motivation and encouraging them and empowering them to find the answers for themselves. Sometimes we need to give them a recipe. Sometimes it's, I miss pizza, right? And you're trying to find a recipe for them that scratches that itch. All of that stuff's fine,
Yeah.
right? But when it comes to making any kind of change or interjecting anything that might impact their protocol and what they've been practicing, that kind of stuff is where you just need to wear your coaching hat is all I'm saying, right?
And it sounds like with this internship program, you're supported and there's structure, so
Oh yeah.
that one can build this skill. Because oftentimes, if people are just left to their own, they may be overstepping boundaries.
Right. So we
That
have training calls every right now they're every Monday at 11. I'm not married to that time. It's just a time that seems to work for quite a few people. I see Stevens asking, what are the hour obligations like? Can it be done while working full time? Yeah. So look, I don't know. We've got people that only have 6 hours a week. They've essentially got an hour a day or whatever. We have other people that are doing maybe like 4 hours on Tuesday and 4 hours on Thursday, and somebody else is doing, they've got time, every single day between 9 and 11, or I can only do evenings and weekends. All of that's fine. Okay. What I ask is that if you just can't find the time, if you are getting over your skis, just let me know early, and we can move you out before you take on a roster load of patients and say when, I mean, have this stuff figured out, but this is an unpaid internship right now. I would love to pay every single coach that comes in here, and there's an opportunity to get paid, and I'll explain that in a minute.
okay.
But the internship is an unpaid internship. If you want to come in and just get your 50 coaching sessions and then go, you can absolutely do that. But otherwise, it's essentially a 6-month internship. It
Okay.
does take you a couple of months to get your wheels underneath you, to kind of learn our systems and learn our protocols and feel comfortable. And in the beginning, everybody's timid and they call like one person, oh, they never called me back. And I'm like, pick five, grab 5 people, call them all. Only one person got back to me. Great, grab 10 more. Like we just sort of work our way forward and we kind of pick up steam. But a lot of people find they're just really enjoying it. And so they stay for the full 6 months. We used to offer up to 12 months. And here's what I found is people were loving being here, and that's great. But if you're using that as a reason to not go out and do what you want to do, then it's time to leave the nest. We had Christiane who was here for a year and a half because she loved doing it and she loved her patients. And she's like, you know what? I'm finding myself backburnering what I really need to do, the stuff that I'm uncomfortable with, But
Mhm.
Christiane, I will keep in mind for a corporate opportunity that I have coming up. But then I have Tiffany, who's been here for over a year, but she's built such great rapport with many of her patients that she's been able to upsell them a paid coaching package. So she's making money now. So she's sticking around.
And that's what we're so glad that Jen from Primal Health is here with us. She's saying that students and coaches are asking about paid internships and if they could potentially stay on after their internships.
Yeah. So the actual application process is literally just a Google form.
Mhm.
Okay. So Jen, I believe you have it. I think Chloe at one point had it. Who replaced Melissa? Somebody replaced Melissa. Um,
I can't remember right now.
I know he's a gentleman. I'm drawing a blank, but he has a copy of it. I'm sure Jane has it. So I can send it as well. We're
Right.
doing this in sort of, yeah, thank you. We're doing this in 6-month cohorts. So the next group that's going to be graduating soon, then fill out that application and we'll get you rolling. Okay. And it's absolutely flexible. Every little training call we have, I record it and I will upload the recording of that call into our Google Drive. You can go back and watch it later. I have a coach who I had a coach last cohort who was a teacher, could not make that 11 o'clock call. So she and I just set a little 30-minute appointment every Wednesday at her lunch break. And we met on her lunch break every Wednesday instead. I have another coach who's in Hawaii and just her time zone, she's like 5 or 6 hours behind us.
Yeah.
So she and I, we just have 30 minutes at 4:30 my time. And we talk every week as well. So we can do that if you can't make what's nice about the group calls is you get to talk amongst each other and share stories and that kind of stuff. But other than that, I do want to have some sort of ongoing contact with you because otherwise what happens is people just sort of hide, you know? And I need to kind of track you down and find out what's going on. Just, hey, are you engaging? Or things going on? Tell me what's happening with your patients. I want to hear what you're going through and what your experiences are and what your questions are. So I want to have some sort of regular contact with you, but that can be flexible.
And this is so rich to hear that a new coach is in an internship program with support and guidance by you. So they're being coached by you on how to be a new coach. And I mean, to me, that's invaluable.
Right, right. So right now, the internship is an unpaid internship, and here's why. Because right now we have no revenue that comes from health coaching. Zero. Okay, we cannot bill insurance. We are going to attempt to bill for our first session with a CPT code. We're going to see if it goes through. We have identified one plan that one of our patients has, and she's telling us that she was told that they'll pay for it. So we're going to try that and see if it works. But right now, the vast majority of insurance plans do not reimburse for health coaching. So we can't do insurance funded health coaching. People can certainly pay out of pocket. So that's where some opportunities come up. So during our internship, what we've arrived at as a group, this is trial and erroring a few things, right? We tried doing just 2 sessions and then see if we can upsell. We were finding, first of all, it's hard to get people to even get a hold of them. But then once you get them in, they felt 2 sessions was not quite enough time to build
Right.
enough rapport, right?
I can really
They
get
don't know
that.
what coaching is. In two
Right.
sessions, sometimes you can, okay? But that on average, Tiffany and Christiane will both tell you people they saw 6 times or more were much more likely.
They're in the container. They
Yes, to
understand the
upsell to a paid coaching
relationship.
package. Right. So we've just said, look, here's what we're going to do. Regardless of how a patient comes to us, whether the RD referred them, whether they're on our type 2 diabetes list, food IQ, whatever, everyone is eligible for up to 6 complimentary coaching sessions. We say up to because if somebody just ghosts you time and time again, we're just sorry, you've lost your complimentary eligibility. And we're not going to have you ghosting our health coach all the time because to them, they're not paying for it. It's not like we don't allow that. Okay. So up to 6 coaching sessions, complimentary. And then from there, they have the opportunity to pay for ongoing support. We have a once a month, a twice a month. We have a 6-pack and a 10-pack that you can upsell to people at the end of those 6 complimentary sessions. Okay, there's also intermittent opportunities as well. I didn't mention this to you last time, Tara, but sometimes Simplex Wellness has like wellness webinars that they do for some of their corporate clients, and they need a presenter.
Mm,
I don't know, I think they pay like $100 or whatever to just for an hour jump on a Zoom and do a presentation. So for those of you that like that kind of thing, you can get paid doing it that way. The other area is in corporate. And right now, the corporate opportunity that I have this is really exciting. Oh my gosh. So we've launched rather than just like, oh, here's another wellness platform where 10 to 20% of your employee base will actually use it. There's no appetite for that. No one's looking for yet another platform or a new platform. They're not.
yeah.
What they are looking for is a solution to their rising healthcare costs due to these GLP-1 medications. Okay.
You hear that, people?
Yeah. So we've come forward with, and it's a 9-month sort of a case management solution. It's a 9-month commitment and it's expensive. However, the employees aren't paying for it. It's employer funded. We are targeting self-funded employers. So these are employers who self-fund their benefits plan, their insurance plan. So they might have Blue Cross Blue Shield or Aetna, but it's not really Aetna that's paying the bill. It's the employer.
Right.
And what many have found is that the last couple of years, it's like doubled because of the GLP-1 medications. They're very expensive. So we've come forward with, and we're not calling it a GLP-1 program because we don't want to scare people off. We're calling it our type 2 diabetes prevention and reversal program because we stand strong in we can actually reverse this. We can put people in remission. You know, it's a 9-month program. It's includes a CGM for the first 12 weeks. For those that want to pay for it, we also have a medical, I'm sorry, medically tailored meals option that people can have meals delivered.
That's fantastic.
We are using a company called Precision Health Reports, where we're going to have each patient focused on their actual insulin resistance risk score rather than one marker, right? We want to be able to impact a lot of things. So this program includes a CGM for 12 weeks, three of these nutrition health reports, first week, 8 week, and then at the end. Medically tailored meals are optional, and then they get up to 3 dietetic visits if they're in a state that we have a dietitian who's licensed. If
Okay.
not, it's all health coaching. So it would be 3 dietetic visits and like 16 health coaching visits. And then if we're in a state that there are no dietitians, it would be all health coaching. So this would be a paid opportunity. We have the first one launching in September. It's a small company. I don't anticipate a lot of people in it, and I have already promised that spot to two of the coaches that have been here a very long time.
Right.
Okay.
That really,
Like Tiffany, Christiane, that have been here a year or so. But here's the deal. If this goes well and the broker is happy and the employer is happy, we will then be introduced to another company. Right. And then we have the ability to use our case studies and our examples and our feedback
yeah.
for more marketing. And we have a few brokers that are in our pocket that have told us will reach out in the fall because we have a lot of that's when all of their companies are looking to kind of redo their benefits package. So we anticipate that the fall will shake out a lot more opportunities, and we'll see where that lies. But
Oh,
this is our first go, our first crack at it. And that would be a paid position where you get to work with, I mean, 16 appointments with one person is fantastic
that really is.
that you get
Great
paid
job.
for. Yeah.
That's great. Well, and we have
So
a question from Steven. He's asking if for the type 2 diabetes, can we talk about how strength training and sprinting can increase insulin sensitivity if they're able, or is it just nutrition?
no, 100%. Actually, that would be a fantastic like benefit. So, I mean, you got to let the dietitians do their thing.
Yeah.
Okay? Like our foundations plate, tell me if this sounds familiar, is at least a quarter of that plate is protein. At
Yeah.
least, right? We're looking at on average 30 to 50 grams per meal, depending on man, woman, activity level, all that stuff. It's mostly veg, like a lot of vegetables. We are big believers in nurturing the gut microbiome. I know there's a lot of carnivore people. We're not a carnivore place. We're not. That's not something we actively recommend unless we have someone with a severe autoimmune condition and we need some sort of reset. We need some sort of like not an elimination diet, but yeah, similar, So it's not that we've never used it. It's not a core protocol of ours. Okay.
Got it.
So
Appreciate
veggies,
that clarity.
yeah, veggies, lots of protein. And then like the other corner is a little sliver of maybe some starchy carb or a piece of fruit. And then the rest is healthy fats. It's very primally aligned, very kind of low. We don't use the term low carb or keto because there's a huge stigma in the medical community with that wording. We call
Right.
it a low insulin, high fiber diet, is what we call it.
Low insulin, high fiber diet.
Okay, that's what we call it. I think you're going to find there's a lot of synergy there,
Yeah.
but let the dietitian kind of she's the one who's going through the client's entire medical history. The client or the patient is talking to them about all this stuff that they've tried in the past, and they arrive at a starting place. There's a method to their madness in each session, and they will progress the patient through based on their success and how they're doing. So where we can come in and complement with other lifestyle behaviors is fabulous. You will get a lot of nutrition questions, especially with new patients.
Yeah.
They're very new to all of this stuff. But I mean, look, I'm a certified personal trainer. I owned a gym for years. I am always talking about fitness. I'm always talking about how activity actually lowers blood glucose. And
Right.
you don't have to be doing CrossFit classes after every meal. You can just go and take a 20 or 30-minute walk and it will lower your postprandial blood sugar. I even talk about how you can punctuate activity throughout the day, that the more you can flex that muscle, the more those glucose receptors open up and literally suck glucose out of the blood. You don't even need insulin.
Right.
So the more you can move throughout the day, the better. And we talk about all that stuff. So I would love it if you would talk about the role of any kind of activity, strength training in particular. I know I'm a bit of a gym rat myself and I love to strength train. Sprinting's cool, but you're going to find yourself with people that have 120 pounds to lose and arthritis in their knees.
Right.
So we gotta, you know, we
Meet
gotta
them
meet them
where
where
they
they're
are.
at. Yeah.
Yeah.
Gotta meet them where they're at. Let's see. Um,
Sandra's asking, do most people who apply get in, or is there usually a waiting list?
yeah, I try to just open it up every 6 months, and in the past we only did like five at a time, but I have enough people. As a matter of fact, I now this last cohort, we opened it up to I think there was 13, and then some people got in. Four or five had to just be like, one guy's in the middle of launching his own business and he just doesn't have the time to give us. He thought he did and he just didn't. Another individual already met her 50 coaching sessions and she's like, I feel bad taking coaching sessions away from people. I think you've got a good group of people. You know, Another person had something very personal happen and just had to bow out temporarily and something else. So we started with 14. We have like 10 now. But I feel confident that I know enough now after several cohorts that we can scale this. Where we may run into a problem is if there's all of a sudden 40 people all at once. And I just got to make sure I have space on all my platforms for all of you and stuff. But um, for the most part, I'm no longer doing the only five at a time. We can accommodate more people.
Justine, I'm so glad that you're here. And she says that you're her gym rat
Aw.
twin.
Hi, Justine. How are you? My gym rat twin. Love that.
Well, and I think that this is great. What I'm taking away from this, Laura, is just how intimate the group is and what an opportunity to get in and have your ideas massaged, participate as well as like what a reciprocal relationship.
Yeah, we got to just kind of jump in and speak up. If you have an idea on how to make something better, say so. I'm all ears, I don't want to hear just a bunch of complaints without a better solution, but that hasn't really been an issue, you know. If anything, it's just, hey, this is where let's try sending out a text message, which was there's got to be a way we can automate this. And there should be, but we have I'm not going to bore you with it. We have two systems. They don't always speak to each other really well. So the automation part for this is a little harder, but I think we figured it out and we'll see if it works. We'll see if the automation yields better results than actually a person picking up the phone and making a phone call,
Okay.
right? And seeing what happens. Look, I spent 25 years in sales. I am not afraid to pick up the phone and make a phone call,
Right.
but I know a lot of people are. A lot of people are. And, I'm not going to give you a script unless you want me to. I
Mhm.
want it to sound like you. Here's what you should say in it, but you don't have to say it exactly this way.
Right.
I want it to sound like you. But I'm more than happy to kind of give you some language that you can work with and tailor while you're picking up the phone and just being like, hey, looks like you're on our type 2 diabetes list. I'm so excited that you opt in. My
Yeah.
name's Coach so and so. When do you want to get started?
Yeah.
You know, See if you
With
reach
a
them.
warm lead.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. You're not cold calling people that that don't know who you are. These are people that were referred to Simplex. You're calling from Simplex. They were told they were eligible for this and they said yes. But we have had some people like, really? I don't remember saying that. Yeah, no, I'm not interested. Because I'm sure when they sit down and they're on the phone with one of our schedulers, there's a lot coming at them all at once. They might not even realize what they said yes to. But then in the past, what we have found is that person actually saw their dietitian and their dietitian ended up referring them for support anyway, and then we got them that way.
Mm. We've got some
So
people having to jump off, but
yeah, I know we're at the end of
appreciating
our.
you, Laura Ann says, it's just so nice to hear your voice again.
Yes, same. It's so good to see you all. Feel like I'm back home.
Right? We have just a few more minutes if there's any more questions.
Miss you too, Jan. Natalie, fantastic. Yeah. And look, so real quick, I'm going to just type if you have questions about it, you can just email me. Okay. But Jen Robinson, I know I'm pretty sure she's got the application for it.
Right.
Um,
That's
just
so
go
great to
ahead and
see
sign
that.
up.
Then that was
I might not reach back out to you right away. I really want this to kind of coincide with as you are winding down your ACE certification,
okay.
because you're not going to be able to count any of these sessions until you've reached a certain point in your ACE. So if you're just here for experience, that's one thing. But if you want to be able to use these sessions towards your 50 coaching sessions, you're not going to be able to use them until you've either finished ACE. But I think it's once you've finished a certain like assessment within the
That's
ACE
right.
program. Yeah,
Right.
then you can start counting them. So I would wait until you're there before you jump in here, would be my guess. Okay. There you go. Brett or Jen both have the link to it. But in the meantime, you can always just email me if you have more questions. I'm happy to chat about it.
Yeah. Well,
Okay.
Laura, this has been fantastic. It's so nice to have you here, and I just appreciate the path that you're forging for not only health coaches, but for the industry itself.
Yeah, we're big believers. The more we can empower people to take ownership of their own health and educate themselves,
Yeah.
the better. We've spent way too long like just abdicating our own care to other people. So
Yeah.
the more we can encourage people to take that back, the better.
Yeah. Well, I honor you showcasing dedication, courage, and the willingness to follow your heart, not only down to Florida, but to, the conversations with Dave and, building this, taking the internship program and, building it. And just, I'm wishing you so much luck with
Oh,
the
thank you.
corporate too. That's going to be
Thank
fantastic.
you. Yeah, I'm hoping I'm back here for this next webinar talking about all our success there. So,
Awesome.
yeah.
Awesome. All right, everybody. Well, if you have any more questions, all right, we'll see you next time. This has
See
been
ya.
great.
Thanks, everybody.